Perhaps you don't know, but perhaps you don't know that Paul wrote 4 letters to the church at Corinth, and he makes reference to those letters, but rather tragically, we only have 2 of them. And Corinth was one of the churches that he particularly, I think, was delighted with. Their response was quick to the good news message. And at the same time, the letters reveal both their struggle to stay faithful, issues that occurred within the group, as well as a whole host of wonderful pieces of advice and guidance that Paul gives to the people in Corinth. Likewise, Paul made a genuine effort to codify or identify the faith of the community of believers following the death and resurrection of Jesus. There is in the 5th chapter one line that I want to share with you that will be the basis of my sermon this morning. He's talking about friendship with God through Christ and the ways in which we come to know our God and how we become connected or joined to God. And then he says this: when anyone is joined to Christ, he is a new being. The old is gone, the new has come. It's a new beginning for those who join themselves to Christ. I don't know if you've thought about the number of new beginnings that you have had personally all through the course of your life. But new beginnings, I think, happen all through from the beginning of our birth all the way up through the last of our breaths. And so I started listing some of them. My birth was a new beginning. Drinking out of a bottle was a new beginning. Turning over, crawling, new beginnings. Walking. And I've often said when a child begins to walk, they're on their way out. Because somehow when they begin to walk, they walk faster than we can run. It's just amazing. Not wearing diapers was a new beginning, not only for me as a child and my brother and sister, but likewise for my parents. It was a wonderful new beginning. Learning words like mine and no. It seems to me like those are the 2 words that children learn right away. No. Or mine. It's fascinating. Looking forward to the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, Santa. Those were new beginnings. Starting school on Sundays. Sunday school was important to our family and to me. And in kindergarten. Making friends, listening and trusting other adults was a new beginning. Every birthday, getting a driver's license, having the first job, struggling with math and biology, the first date, and then being rejected by someone I liked a lot. Yes, the loss of serious illness, the death of a friend who was part of our larger youth group in the United Methodist Church back then, the loss of my uncle, grandparents. Graduating from high school was a new beginning. Signing up for the draft, which was required back then, and even yet, and going to college. And that's a new beginning for me, and I probably missed a lot because, they didn't seem important, but they were new beginnings. And indeed, it's a fairly small list, and I only got through 18 years of age. Now, new beginnings occur to all of us. Sometimes they happen automatically. Assuming that you stay alive all through the course of your life, you're going to have birthdays. New beginning is you're going to need new glasses. A new beginning is that your hair may go. New beginning is a host of other things that just happen naturally as a result of the process of aging. But they're new beginnings. New beginnings. They are new beginnings that happen to us just automatically. And sometimes those new beginnings we choose because of bad choices, because of poor judgment, because of self-centeredness. And so we may lose a friend. We may get ourselves in trouble because we decided that it was a good idea to do something that turned out to be a bad idea. Judgment, it can be faulty sometimes in our thinking, or we respond to the guidance and direction of someone else, and we think they are the ones who know what to do and how to live their lives, and so we do that. And the new beginning may then be the painful process of admitting the mistake and the error and the sin that you've created and committed. And then the new beginning is reconciliation and forgiveness and wholeness. Sometimes we welcome the new beginnings, and sometimes we are delighted with them. Other times we resist them and deny them and indicate that they never happened. I didn't do it, I didn't say it. And then someone, as the new ad shows, they bring the red flag down. Have you seen that sports ad? And then next thing you know, the person who said something didn't happen, the evidence is there it did. So new beginnings occur. One sometimes becomes locked into those new beginnings if they're negative experiences. The person who begins to drink excessively or who starts smoking may find themselves incapable of breaking away from that behavior. And so addiction becomes part of that person's new beginning. And then if in fact they get some help and if they admit to their need, the next thing you know, there's a whole new beginning of freshness and wholeness and a whole new life. Sometimes relationships are bad. I did a wedding a number of years ago here where the husband came into the wedding ceremony really quite drunk. And the best man literally had to hold him up. I should have stopped that wedding. I should have said, I'm not going to do that. And within less than 6 months, he was arrested for abusive behavior to the woman he said he'd love the rest of his life. Sometimes we choose behaviors that cause us to be frozen into those behaviors until someone intervenes on our behalf and says, you got to stop. What you're doing is hurting others and hurting you. And sometimes that new beginning then is divorce. Sometimes that new beginning is ending the relationship. Sometimes the new beginning is discovering that you can have control over with the guidance and direction of your Lord as you change. New beginnings, new beginnings. I'm thinking of, by the way, the French word for Jean is Jean. You have to Jean say it. I learned that from my teacher on the internet. So Jean or Jean has now entered a new beginning in his life. 31-year-old young man who's just a delightful young man, someone that you're going to enjoy meeting, I'm quite sure, who is courteous and warm and gentle and has a soft-spoken voice, is quite tall, and is someone I think that you're going to find to be a treasure to have among us. His new beginning is coming from a refugee camp where in Kenya, and had lived in the Congo, was in that refugee camp. We're not quite sure what happened, and we'll find out during the course of our discovery of who he is and who we are. It's just a wonderful story of a new beginning for him, waiting for a long time to be allowed to immigrate to the United States. He comes with a Social Security number, he comes with a work visa, and he will find work because we know that there's work available here in this community for him. Wonderfully, we have discovered that he has a cousin living in Appleton who is married and has three children. So the connections in the world are fascinating and incredibly interesting. So his coming here into our community will allow him to expand his life, explore the possibilities, and provide the kind of gifts that he can give as he contributes to our society and to our life together. He is a follower of Jesus. He is someone who in the Congo is part of the half of the population which is Protestant. The other half is Catholic, and a small percentage of folks are in some other of the religions, but at least 95% of the Congo, much due to missionary efforts and work that were offered by Catholics and Lutherans and Methodists and Presbyterians and evangelicals all across the globe. So we will meet him and we'll have a chance to greet him and say, Jean, we're glad to have you here and we welcome you. New beginnings. Consider the new beginning that comes as a result of connecting yourself to Jesus. That's what Paul says. If you connect yourself, if you yoke yourself, if you tie up with Jesus, if you become bonded to him, you will have a new life. And that new life will influence every new experience that you have, every new beginning, every ending of old beginnings. Indeed, you will have a rich and special life. That is something that is attested to by Jesus. It is attested to by Paul. It is affirmed by all the other authors of the New Testament. And it is affirmed over close to 2,000 years of people who have said yes. When you join Jesus, all of life is understood and lived differently. Your new beginnings can become rich and wonderful and filled with discovery and awe. And those painful times you have can be understood in the larger context of God's great love for each of us. So connecting with Jesus, bonding with Jesus, is to listen to his lessons, to learn from them, to watch as you image how he lived his life and say, I want to be like Jesus. And if you listen likewise and then image in your brain that gift that came to the church as Jesus was willing to suffer death, died on the cross, but God decided indeed that was not the end of the story. The story would be Jesus would be risen, and that we in turn could have the wonderful strength and power and vision and joy and mutual love of that same life, a new beginning for each of us. God bless you. Amen.